All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the Tone Vase YouTube channel. I hope the audio was working good. I'm using an old mic, but it's a new mic because I haven't used it in over a year. We had some audio issues this morning, so I'm gonna wait for the live chat to give some confirmations. Today, I am joined by Greeny, who has his own YouTube channel, Crypto Commons. It is a Russian-speaking YouTube channel in the Russian language. But he recently launched his English-speaking YouTube channel as well. Greeny is a trader. His Russian-speaking YouTube channel has over 100,000 subs. We've personally met, hung out over in Uzbekistan. You're currently in Argentina. I haven't made it there in a while. Greeny, how you doing, man? Give us a little bit on your background. We're gonna spend 5, 10 minutes talking about Bitcoin, and then you and I
Yeah,
are gonna talk some Russia and why you left Russia and you
yeah.
guys he may school me a little bit on the situation over in Russia because I haven't visited there um, since
Yeah.
2018, I think, and I never lived there like he did, so he'll know a lot more. All right, man. You might be your first time on the channel in a one-on-one. You joined
No,
during the
we
big panic streams.
yeah. Actually, I was in at the Great Halving stream, Tone. So yeah, thanks for having me on
Mhm.
again.
You can't say
Uh,
much. You don't have much to say. It's hard to get a lot of words in on a hanging stream. So floor is yours. Go for it. Give us some background.
Great. Yeah. So nice to see you all, and thanks for having me on. As Tone said before, I'm originally a Russian crypto YouTuber, but lately I decided to start English channel as well. So time to time I'm doing English technical analysis and trading online, and even you can catch some cool guests on our English channel. For example, Tone, Joe Sass, and much more, many more guys. So yeah, I think that Bitcoin is boring now because actually nothing's happening for a month or 2 months. I mean, we touched the all-time high again, then we did some correction, but to be honest, not very deep as I expected. Yeah, so maybe as I as I can think, I mean, I have been watching for a lot of your last streams, and the titles are pretty much always like Bitcoin is boring. Let's go talk Putin, or let's talk Russia, Ukraine. So I decided, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to uh, take a invite for some of the streams, because actually I have something to say about this geopolitical issue. Uh, because yeah, I know your position, and a lot of my friends also have the same position. I mean, in terms of this big war, I mean, not between Russia and Ukraine, but between US and Russia. So yeah, maybe we can talk about this later.
Yeah, we'll get that in a second. Let's throw the chart of Bitcoin up
Yeah,
and then
sure.
go from there. In case people are wondering, what microphone am I using right now? The microphone I am using today, which is not the microphone I normally use when I travel, is this video mic NTG. This is the current microphone that I'm using. It's the microphone I used to use, but it's been packed up in a box since I sold that New York apartment. I just unpacked this microphone. I now have multiple like places I would be doing the stream. This is I'm in the tri-state area right now. I'm flying over to see Joe Salas tomorrow, and after that, I'm gonna go to Minnesota. So I'll be back to this location. Also, while I'm at this location, this is where my trading cards are. So Greeny, remind me after we talk Bitcoin chart. I'm gonna open a pack, then we're gonna talk some Russia, Ukraine, and then I'm gonna open another pack. I haven't ripped one of these
All
packs
right.
in a while. Okay, so this is the
Nice.
microphone I'm using. Hopefully, I've figured out how to use the right settings. These advanced microphones are a pain in the ass, but you can see that I'm not being cheap. I just gotta figure out how to properly use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, leave a like if tone sounds great, because we were sound checking. It's like 20 minutes before the stream. It was sound like broken robot. So now it's much better, and we can hear you. Let's go
Um,
to charts.
Yeah, I'll give my comments on Julian Assange in a minute. So real quick, we did do a show with Matt McGregor this morning. I'm really liking how this price is recovering. Right now, personally, I think that the number one goal is to eliminate this red star candle. I would love to see this red star candle eliminated. This is a weekly scale. If we can eliminate this red star candle by the end of the week and turn this volume into a green volume spike, regardless if the candle is red or green, but actually the candle would have to be green, otherwise the red star will remain. So I would love to see a green candle here. If we can get back above the moving average, that's great. And that would set me on the road to being bullish. For the moment, I am 50-50 if the low of 58,500 is here to stay. I am 50-50. And I'm going to stay 50-50 as long as Bitcoin is below this, I guess, the Great Wall of China resistance. This is literally what it's like. You have three moving averages and an MRI resistance line. You can see how the MRI support line has played its part. We technically broke the MRI support line on the last candle based on how it closed, but look how quickly we recovered above it. So technically this line's been broken, but it still somewhat did its job. I thought that the low would come in the 58,000s and it did. I'm really liking the second consecutive MRI buy. I'm liking the green diamond based on alpha numerics. All signs are pointing to a reversal here. But how strong of a reversal is the question to answer. I think this reversal has potential to bring us into the wall of resistance. The wall of resistance begins at 65,000 and the wall of resistance continues until 67,500. Personally, if you have not exited Bitcoin on this major drop, a decent time to take your profit would be at 65,000 when you're hitting the wall of resistance. And if you can break the wall of resistance, you can then get back into your bullish trade. And I would potentially even consider leveraging that trade to make up for the $2,500 that was missed in profit by exiting right here. So right now I am bullish short term. I am very cautious intermediate term, and obviously I am bullish long term. And on the long term chart, we are should be entering the main bull run up of this cycle sometime around the end of the summer. So we're talking mid to late August into mid September. Okay. On this note, my Bitcoin chat is done. You can see on the 4-hour, we're rallying nicely. And our first level of resistance is going to show up at 62,500 here. I think we can break it, even though this moving average has continuously smacked us down. And but the daily MRI buy should significantly help breaking it. Will we break the last one, which should be in that 65,000 vicinity? I'm not sure. We have the samurai resistance line as well, and when the longer term moving average on a 4-hour meets the resistance line at 64,500 sometime on June 27th, which is Thursday, that could be a big problem. All right, Greeny, any comments on Bitcoin price? Do you want to show a chart? Do you want to just comment
Yeah,
on my charts? And then we're
I
gonna
can.
move on to the real topic, which is Russian
Yeah,
crude
yeah,
oil and
sure,
the rest.
Ton. I can get to. I can show my chart for 2 or 3 minutes and then back to yours, to your map, if you don't
Sounds
mind.
good. Go for it.
Yeah, we have some signs. I think you're familiar with this stuff. It's. Do you see my screen? Yeah,
Oh yeah,
you should.
this looks like the
This.
trader platform that Joe Saz
Yeah.
uses. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna see Joe Saz tomorrow, so we're likely gonna do a show together on Thursday. If not tomorrow, then on Thursday.
Great. So yeah, just to confirm that you said that you are, as I understood, correct me if I'm wrong, that you are bullish short term and long term as well. So yeah, we are seeing some bullish signs. I mean, in recent price action, we are seeing very strong buy orders here. So this is, I think it's not not ultimate support, but at least very strong support for this time, because you see, usually we are not going above or below this these levels where where we see the order book extremums. But sometimes, as here, we did broke this level. So anytime, every time when I see a next signal on this order book overlay, I mean this one, this is much more powerful than the previous one. I mean, even this support is still in game, in play. I mean, usually we should bounce back and at least spend a couple of time here. I mean, in the worst case scenario, I see that we'll retest this region as resistance, and then maybe we can go lower. I mean, if we'll see some kind of midterm correction. I still expect a midterm correction. I think we will see maybe last time we will see prices below, below 60,000, but maybe not now. I expecting some strong bounce, and then maybe we will see if we do not break the all-time high regions. If we will see some weakness, I think we will break this level. I mean 60K to uh, to liquidate some over leveraged longs as usual, business as usual. So me personally, I'm still expecting some kind of 52 or even 48 $1,000 price region in, like a worst case scenario. I mean, like in a black swan. But to be honest with you, it will not be it will not be very comparable to Corona dump. I mean, it will be just correction as usual for, I don't know, 32%. So yeah, that's my point. I'm still waiting a little bit cheaper prices, but if we're talking long term, of course, guys, everything under 100,000 you should buy if you will not plan to sell it in near future. Of course, it's Bitcoin is still very cheap. I mean, if we look at this tone, this is a logarithmic channel of Benjamin Cohen. If we are looking at this, we are just entering the bull market territory. We just broke the this channel. I mean, it's how to say накопительный in English. It's накопительный канал. Tone, you can help me?
Um, I'm not sure. Like
Accumulation. It's called
relation
accumulation
channel.
channel.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
so
it.
we just leaving the accumulation channel, but we also need to consider that we maybe tested it like as a resistance, and now we are going a little bit sideways or maybe a little bit down. But in long term, it doesn't matter
On
because Bitcoin is still very cheap.
on his website, can you pull up like the sentiment indicator, like the YouTube,
Ah,
Twitter? Do you have access to that?
yes, but not now because now we should switch to geopolitical issues because as a Russian citizen still I can't afford I can't use my banking cards, for example, and this site into the cryptoverse of Benjamin Cohen. I don't know why, but he doesn't accept crypto or maybe doesn't accept crypto subscriptions. But anyway, I can't pay for my for my account because all Russia banks are banned from the
That's
SWIFT. Yeah.
strange. Why would like he has a YouTube channel about Bitcoin and crypto, and he doesn't accept crypto? That seems very strange.
Man, I think he is, but maybe if you buy, for example, 1 month or something, I think there are some technical issues that I can't purchase yet, but I will fix it for the next stream. So yeah, but anyway, this sentiment indicator showing us we can't see, but I can tell you the social risk. Yeah, you see this more info about plans. Uh,
Right.
where we see crypto. Pro plan, standard plan.
It's
But yeah,
okay. It's okay.
anyway,
It's
it,
okay.
it,
We're
it
not
is it will
gonna
ask me
talk about that.
my credit card, I know. So yeah, I can tell you that the social risk is still very, very low for Bitcoin. In terms of new subscribers, new YouTube viewers, yeah, I think you're also experiencing decreasing of likes, views, new subscribers, even big channels, I mean, million subscriber channels, Benjamin Cohen, BitBoy Crypto and others, they also experiencing the same. So maybe there is not yet a lot of new players in this space. I mean, new people doesn't searching crypto and doesn't care.
Right.
So what do you
In that
think?
case, let's no, let's move on. I was just curious what that chart said. I have no opinion on personally I think that the biggest wave of people entering the space was in 2017. I think that
Yeah.
right now people are still trickling in. Honestly, I think Bitcoin would have to double in a 1 month time, and if Bitcoin not only double in a 1 month time, like if Bitcoin falls to 30,000 and then doubles in a month's time, it's irrelevant. I think Bitcoin needs to double and be above $150,000 in a 1 month's time, and then people are going to
Hmm.
take Bitcoin seriously. Even Bitcoin going to 100K is not going to be enough for people to take it seriously. I think it needs to substantially go above 100K for people to take it seriously.
Yeah, sure. But we are seeing some kind of parabolic movements, and it can absolutely it can break the 6 digits in 1 day. We're seeing this on crypto market every day on some altcoins. But I don't know. I think maybe it's too early because this is the first time in Bitcoin history. Let's take a quick look at the halvings events. I mean, this is the first time in Bitcoin history when we broke the all-time high before the halving, and so what is this telling us? That we are a little bit over bullish maybe at this point. I mean, I still think that this parabola will continue, but maybe we can false break it to liquidate all longs because from my point of view, a lot of bulls now, a lot of longs. But you're absolutely right that then we hit 120 or something, there will be a lot of bulls. Everybody will try to buy Bitcoin by market price. So yeah, maybe I think now we are somewhere in the middle. So if you choose to trade now, I think it's not trade zone. If you are not in the long yet, and if you didn't short this top, I think it's better to be in cash than in position now. What do you think, Tom?
Uh, yeah, no. Well, again, right, define now. If we're yesterday, I would have at this time I'd rather be in cash. Today, I'd rather be long, right? Because I am thinking that we're going to 65,000 and fairly quickly. So the moment we started to reverse on the moment that 4 hour candle came in green yesterday around this time. So in the last 24 hours, I've been bullish, but we'll see what happens in a couple of days when we hit resistance at 75. Sorry, at 65. All right, so as promised,
Yeah.
before we start talking geopolitics, I'm opening up right here
Oh,
one
yeah.
of my packs. I still have, some packs to open. I'm gonna hunt for a very rare poker card, the unconfiscatable poker card. So here are the cards. Come on, guys.
Whoa.
I'm hoping to see a poker card. It'll be the next card. Is it a or my own card? Another Tone Vase card would be great. Oh, not there. Ross, well, Assange got out of prison. I don't know about Ross, maybe one day. And we got Jimmy Song. Another Jimmy Song.
Absolutely amazing.
We got a bunch of Jimmy Songs. Jimmy Song is a 1 out of 500 card. Adam Back is a 1 out of 250 card. And I'm going to open one more pack because I may forget at the end. So we're going to do 2 packs right now. Open one more pack. Hoping for a 1 of 100 card or the elusive poker card, which is 1 of 21. There's only 21 of those poker cards. That is the goal here. We have, what card is that? That is no intrinsic value card. We have, what is that? Citadel 21 card. We have the DCA
DCS.
card. We have the printer card. I see a person coming up, and it is Jimmy Song again. Oh my God. Wow, this box is full of Jimmy Song cards. That's okay. All right, that's it for now. There's one more thing I want to look at before we go and start talking Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Ton,
yeah,
okay, you share screen. I will show you in the end. I also
okay.
can show something.
The one thing I still want to pull up, by the way, I did update the spreadsheet this morning. This is so far the month of June has been flat. The month of June is coming to an end soon. We have in the last week, everybody was selling Bitcoin. In the very first week of June, there was a lot of purchases, not from GBTC, GBTC has sold a lot of Bitcoin this week, over 10,000 of them. GBTC is now down to 274,000 Bitcoin. This used to be over 600,000 Bitcoin, and now they're only at 274. GBTC has sold 55% of its Bitcoin. Here's how much Bitcoin has been purchased by all the ETFs since inception. And the month of June is about to end, and then we'll have July coming in right here. The one thing I did want to pull up is the oil reserve. We haven't looked at the oil reserve in forever. Let me open the website with the oil data, the weekly oil data. And I'm gonna, because I don't know if the government has been buying or selling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve over the last month. So let's go and grab that data. It's been probably about a month and a half since I've done this. The last piece of data that I have in the spreadsheet is the 10th of May. So let's see, let's go to the 10th of May. Right there, I have that data. So we need all of these data points right here. Let's copy all of that. And we're gonna go and paste them. I'm gonna paste them here. And then, all right, so this is May 17. Okay, May 24. This is May 31. June and June. Now we're gonna take these, we're gonna extend them down, and we're gonna take this, we're gonna do that and do that. And now we can see that the Biden administration continues to purchase oil into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Very surprising that they're still buying, considering the election is coming soon and the price of oil is ticking up. So this is starting September. I think they're going to massively sell all of it. So far in the year, the Biden administration has purchased 16,000 barrels of oil. That's good to know. So the Biden administration continues to buy oil. We can go and pull up the oil chart. Let me get rid of that. There's the oil chart, and they are still buying. So we're going to expand that green window. All right. So on this note, should I pull up something on Russia Ukraine? I mean, I can pull up the live view, the live map.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. When you were streaming this kind of streams alone 2 years ago when the war escalated, I'd love to hear your opinion because yeah, it's pretty much objective tone. I mean, you're not on anyone's side. I guess. I hope so because I think you're not completely on the Putin side as as not anyone's. That's why I wanted to join and discuss. So please go
Well,
ahead.
so it's not that I'm not on Putin's side, but I understand why Russia and Putin, and I know everyone just says Putin, but Putin is not the only guy in charge. Putin is not the king of Russia. There is, like a real government over there. Putin just has the biggest say in that government, but Putin is no different than the CEO of a company. Yes, the CEO has the overwhelming majority of an opinion, but it's not the only opinion. And in fact, I would say the majority of the opinions in the high end of the Russian government are a lot more aggressive than Putin would have otherwise been. So, and people outside of Russia just don't understand that. And the other thing I will say is I fully understand where Putin's coming from and where Russia is coming from and why they're doing what they're doing in Ukraine. They don't understand where Ukrainians are coming from and why Ukrainians are doing what they're doing. And this could be the biggest point of discussion because anytime I try to have a rational conversation with a Ukrainian that is pro-Ukraine, they don't actually explain why in the world they want to go to war with Russia, and yet they want to go to war, and yet they wanted to go to war with Russia. So this is where the big controversy shows up in that I see zero logic to anything that's happened inside the Ukrainian border in the last 10 years. And even though I like Ukraine, I used to go to Ukraine all the time. I enjoyed my time in Ukraine more than I enjoyed my time in Russia. And yet, the government of Ukraine um, has done everything stupidly wrong, which is the opposite of what I can say about the Russian government, which means I'm not going to say it's done everything right, but I'm going to say the Russian government has done very little wrong compared to what how the as far as um, the putting the people in a bad spot versus what the Ukrainian government has done versus putting their people in a bad spot. So I'm gonna let you speak at this point.
Yeah, Ton, I think you have some mic issues again. I think we hear you, but the sound a little bit bad for now, so we can try to switch again. You're absolutely right that we should separate the government of a country and the citizens of the country, because actually Ukrainians and Russians, this is the one how to say narod, one one people basically. Basically, a lot of family members, friends, and other near persons are living in Ukraine, in Belarus, in Russia. Because it's one country. It was Kiev was the capital of Kievskaya Rus. Uh, it's like before the Soviet Union, before everything. It was like 13th century. So actually, of course, this is like a civil war, and yeah. So maybe in terms of strategical geopolitical issues, yeah, we can say that Ukrainians did not good. I mean, their government was how to say провоцировать, провокация, to
Uh,
provocate. Can I say?
yeah,
They, 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 they,
yeah,
they,
it,
they,
it was a provocative government towards war. It was the Ukrainian government.
absolutely.
And the thing
Yeah.
is, and the reason why Ukraine ended up with a government that uh, taunted Russia to attack them, the reason why that government was in charge of Ukraine is because America helped overthrow a democratically elected Ukrainian government, which was a lot more neutral, leaning pro-Russia. And while many Ukrainians were not happy with a neutral, slightly Russian-leaning Ukrainian government, I hope those same people are now happy that the current government has let 500,000 of the people to die, plus the loss of 4 regions plus Crimea.
Yeah.
So, uh, again, you can complain all you like as to Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but had the Ukrainian government not been overthrown with the United States' assistance in 2014, this would not be happening right now. And I say that very confidently.
Yeah, but you know what? Um, Putin is uh, Putin is self-proclaimed king of Russia, as you mentioned before. He is a king of Russia because when he talking about that Zelensky is not legitimate president now, it sounds not funny, man, because it's not funny for 2 years or more for people to handle this war. I mean, when he took Crimea, it was different. It was completely different situation because it was there was basically there were no blood. There was some army, some tanks. I mean, some weapons, but there was no blood, and people were agree. Like I talked to a lot of people in Crimea when it was Ukrainian. When now it's Russia thinks that it's Russian, but actually it's controlled by Russia. So, yeah, I think there is no problem with that, if we can say so. Of course, for Ukrainian people, this is the problem because it's an occupied territory. But everyone understands that historically it have been. Russian, I mean, Sevastopol is a Russian city. So historically, Kiev also had been Russian. That's why Putin pretend to take this land. But you need to understand to have complete view that people in Russia, I mean, citizens in Moscow, in Saint Petersburg, from my point of view, I think 90% of citizens does not accepting this. Putin's plan, this aggressive war, which started 2 years ago in Donbass and these regions. So I mean, but they can't do anything because in Russia we do not have elections. Basically, we do not have institution of property now. I mean, in Russia, what we're seeing now, last years, it's some kind of police insane. How to say, like. Basically when police is doing things like mafia. I mean, Putin itself, he is the boss of this mafia. It is military and police mafia. So basically you should know that they are not doing their job well. They are just closing all businesses, taking it, like trying to occupy all this good businesses. I mean, the oil business, the gas business. So people are not agree with him. So they are doing dictatorship. They are drawing this 87% elections results. And from my point of view, a lot of people, I mean, especially young persons, they are do not accepting this, but they don't have a choice. So you need to consider this. I
Well,
think a lot of guys want to
let me ask you this.
remove Putin, but yeah, sorry.
Well, if they remove Putin, they're gonna put somebody in charge that's probably gonna nuke Kiev. So, like that's the thing, right? Removing Putin will not solve the problem. This is what removing Putin will only put Medvedev in charge, which he is a lot more aggressive towards America and Ukraine than Putin is, and by a lot more, I mean a lot more. So, removing Putin, I believe, will only create a bigger problem than currently is the problem. Let me ask you this. I actually find it very hard to believe that 90% of Russians disagree with what's happening in Ukraine. Uh,
But
maybe
they can
90%,
say
maybe
that's
90% of
from my point of view, Tom. Maybe not
I
90. I
mean,
mean, younger generation especially.
here's the thing, right? 90% of Russians that have left Russia and are living in a different country right now, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things why I don't believe this is because Russia had the biggest election turnout it had in a long time. And unless the Russian government is lying about the high election turnout, yes, people didn't have anybody to really vote for other than Putin, but then why did so many people go and vote? So it's the turnout. So there were people with cameras going to, and this is even in Russia, in Israel, during the Russian presidential election, there were, I saw a couple of YouTube videos of people showing endless lines of Russians living in Israel, and they were living in Israel before this conflict, probably, voting in the Russian election at the Russian parliament. And the line was like thousands of people long. Why would these people spend all day in the Israeli sun voting for Putin uh, if Putin was getting reelected anyway? So this is one of the things where I find it very hard to believe that most Russians are against what's happening in Ukraine, while at the same time taking half a day to stand online to vote for Putin as president, especially
Yeah,
with the money living in Russia.
that is weird. I agree. But maybe it also was like, I don't know, maybe they were paid for this or something. Because I saw a lot of lines. I saw a lot of lines for the Boris Nadezhdin. If you heard about this, it was like an opposite candidate when they already killed Navalny and other real opposite candidates went to jail. If you should know that Putin basically he how to say разобрался, расправился. Basically, he killed or put to jail or something else with all his opposite candidates. So people didn't have to vote for somebody. And then there one like opposite in quotes candidate. His name is Boris Nadezhdin. Actually, he's a Putin's friend and not very, radical opposite candidate. But actually, even here, when after a lot of opposite media, they forced people to go to stand lines for this Boris Nadezhdin to give signs to him to get uh, to let him to go to the elections. So yeah, there were a lot of lines for this candidate, but even after that, they canceled his application, so he can't go and be elected. Then yeah, Putin decided to do elections with three no-name candidates. So basically, there was Putin and two other no-names, or maybe three other no-names. Of course, if you do not have to vote for someone, you will vote for Putin. If the elections are fair, even if they are fair, you do not have another candidate. Basically, if there, it's something like from my point of view, what they wanted to do in U.S. They wanted to sue Trump to Trump to go to jail, right? But they can't. And as I know, in U.S., the president can rule the country from anywhere. I mean, if I get it right, even Trump can rule the U.S. even from the jail. Is it right? In
Well, no,
Russia, no.
he would
No?
pardon himself. He wouldn't be in jail anymore. Trump can win the election from jail.
Ah,
And then the
okay.
next day he would be out of
Yeah.
jail because he would have the power to
Hmm.
uh to pardon himself and be back in the White House.
Yeah, I understand. But if we are talking about elections, he can be elected even if he
Correct.
is
He
in a
can be
jail, right?
elected from jail, yeah.
That is great. That is fair tone. And also in US, presidents changes every 8 years. So it is called democracy. But in Russia, you can't change president now because it's really the boss of mafia. They solve the problems like in the middle of 20th century in America. I mean, they're really gangsters. So yeah, I think you do not have the full picture of this because really no one wants to go to kill Ukrainian people, especially if there are some family members, some friends. But they forced to do it. You can't. In Russia, you can't escape the military regime. You need to
Right.
go and kill your brothers.
Um, correct. So, but what do you think about Putin's peace proposal? I thought it was more than generous, and it got turned down within 3 minutes.
Uh, really, I'm maybe it's not good to laugh at this, but I'm smiling because how can we hear, how can we even agree on something with the man who is an aggressive mafia, the aggressive killer and the mafia boss? And I don't think that even. I'm not saying that Zelensky is a good president, no, but or Biden is good presidents. In my point of view, even Biden and Putin are much worse because they are very old. I mean, we need to get some fresh air and uh, to get there some new younger generation, but they can't. So I'm not saying that we should listen to Zelensky, but I'm absolutely 100% sure we do not listen to Putin. Everything which he was saying, everything he promised, everything was 100% lie. You can find
Well,
mixes,
hey, I'm
mashups
gonna
with this.
challenge you on that. I'm gonna challenge you
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
In the last 3 years that I've been following this situation,
yeah.
and I've gone back to everything Putin has said in the last 8 years publicly, I have not found a single lie where he stated he would do something, or he stated he would not do something and then did it. So
Really?
there has been zero evidence of Putin stating something where he did the opposite of. Now, what happens a lot in the American media is
Yeah,
they say Putin said something when he didn't say it, right? But there has literally been no evidence where Putin says, I will not invade. He never said he wasn't going to invade Ukraine. He just avoided answering the questions, right? So, but
uh,
when people ask them. So as far as written agreements go, Putin has never yet broken any agreements when it comes to this kind of situations. America has broken every agreement, but there's one agreement that you can debate whether Russia has broken it, and that is the Budapest Agreement. where Ukraine agreed not to have nuclear weapons, and Ukraine agreed to be neutral with no nuclear weapons, and Russia agreed not to invade Ukraine. But as I explained it before, from Russian point of view, Ukraine broke that agreement first by attempting to join NATO and by training their army under NATO standards. And as far as Putin and Russian military was concerned, Ukraine was on the verge of acquiring nuclear weapons. And since the agreement says Ukraine is not going to have nuclear weapons, if Russia is suspecting Ukraine with nuclear weapons, they need to invade Ukraine and stop Ukraine from that happening, because once Ukraine acquires nuclear weapons, you can, scream that Ukraine broke the agreement, but then it's too late to do anything about it. So yes, you can claim that Russia broke the Budapest Agreement that took place in 1994, I think, or 96. You can say that Russia broke that agreement by invading Ukraine, but the reason they did it is because Ukraine was on the verge of breaking the agreement themselves with having their entire army trained by NATO and attempting to join NATO.
Yeah, nothing to say with that. But I mean, you see what is happening now. Putin plan was to take Kiev in 3 days or maybe in a week. Now he's saying that no, there was not such plans. But
I mean, is that something Putin stated publicly, or is that something America said Putin planned to take Kiev in 3 days, knowing full well it's impossible for Putin to take Kiev in 3 days, and when he can't
right.
do it, it would make Putin look bad. There's no way Putin was going to take Kiev with 50,000 troops. Kiev is like 3 million people. There was no way that was going to happen. And attempting to show force into Kiev in the beginning of the military operation brought Ukraine to the negotiating table. The peace deal was all but signed, and Russia withdrew their troops, allowing Ukraine to set up proper defense. And then Ukraine never signed the peace agreement and ended up losing an extra 500 million people in 4 regions. They had the peace deal on the table, and Russia withdrew the troops voluntarily, and uh, uh, and maybe they could have taken Kiev with 50,000 troops if they didn't voluntarily withdraw the troops based on the Turkey agreement in Istanbul. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about that, but you see that maybe if you believe this, okay, but I think that they just can't. They just withdrew their troops not because of the how to say
The peace agreement.
charity or something. The good mood to Kiev. I think they just can't do it because the army, Russian army is in a very bad condition because of corruption. I mean, Putin didn't knew because every his who is how to say his assistants. He told him that everything is ready, everything is prepared. We will do our job, okay. But what we see that they can do it. I mean, they say that they will shoot only military objects. The main object was to demilitarize and denazificate Ukraine. But actually, they are shooting schools and I mean, they they are shooting mothers and kids. That's you can't exclude this. I mean, if there is a war. I have some friends um, in the Krivoy Rog. I think it's somewhere near the Kirovograd, maybe. I hope so. Yeah, we have Rambo. You also remember him on our streams on Crypto Commons. He's from Krivoy Rog. He uh, he told me a lot about the situation, and actually, even if Putin didn't want to kill the normal like usual people, he actually did so and continue doing this. So when we shoot Ukraine, it is called okay. It's nobody say about this, but when Ukraine shoots back with the American weapon, for example, they say this is like a terrorist attack. How what like propaganda is doing very bad things because it separates like the one generation in the other, especially older and the younger now. And yeah, what I'm seeing that of course a lot of younger generation. It's by the way, it's not me. It's I think it's my kids already because we like the younger generation who was born after millennium. I don't think they will accept any kind of war. But if there is a war, so of course I think we should defend ourselves. So I can understand Ukrainians, not this terrorist who did this, who started to escalate this conflict with Putin, but for these people, for my my step family members, my friends from Ukraine. Of course, I think they can shoot Russia because it's like a self-defense. So we need to consider that. And yeah, you do not know a lot of things that are going inside Russia now. Even I don't know because I left Russia 3 years ago, or maybe even more.
Let me comment because we're already jumped on to like three different, completely independent topics, right? So
Yeah.
let's go back to the very beginning of the military operation in Russia, where they sent a 50,000 troop force into Kiev. Now, my position is that that force was never going to be big enough to overtake Kiev. Now, you mentioned that it's very likely that the Russian military is corrupt, and they thought they were more, and they told Putin and the generals they were more ready than they were. That is very, very possible. My counter to that is if the Russian military is corrupt, the Ukrainian military is times 10 the corruption of the Russian military. So the Ukraine is even worse. So therefore, if the Russian military is not strong enough for these reasons, then the Ukrainian military is why are they even continuing fighting? Because they have the same problem, only significantly worse. Now, my position is that this force was never, it never had a chance to overtake Kiev, and it was meant to bring Kiev and the Kiev regime to the negotiating table, which they accomplished. They then withdrew those forces on the verge of that agreement being signed. That agreement was not signed, and Ukraine, by that, immediately acquired lots of weapons and help from the West, and they were now able to defend themselves better. In addition, I think that Russia might have overestimated the Russian support inside Kiev. Another reason why this operation might have failed is not that the military was not up to par, but that there might have been overestimation on how many Russian friendly people there were in Kiev and perhaps surrounding Zelensky in the government. Just like it was super easy for Russia to acquire Crimea because everyone in Crimea was basically Russian. There was instantly Crimea joined Russia. Instantly, Donetsk and Lugansk would join Russia. Zaporozhye and Kherson, not as instantly, but I'm pretty sure that vote was more fair, and those regions were leaning Russia. But I think they overestimated how much pro-Russian support was inside Kiev. So I will give them that. I think that was a bit of a mistake by Russia.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, Bitcoin is pumping a little bit, 62,200
Wow,
on a 1 minute time frame.
beautiful. Nope,
We're
I
seeing
really,
some
really
moves.
like it. As I said this morning, that I am looking for a move into 65,000. Now, I started writing this article about the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. I never
Hmm.
finished it. Maybe I'll finish it. I started writing it 2 years ago just to, keep everything fresh. And let me see. I'll pull it up. Let me open it. Hold on. Open it first, and I can drag it over. And I had all these resources, and I already lost. I got a new computer, so I've lost all the resources that I kept. And I went all the way back to the 1990s and how it all began.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to get back to doing this article. But
Yeah, that is the great topic. If you mean that it's began from the collapse of the Soviet Union and separating the little countries, that is great. I think that is what we are what we will see in near future with United States, with Russia, maybe with China. I don't know, because I think we're seeing the trend of separating everything and make everything, uh, like more decentralized. That's what I mean. That's that is what the Russian government are afraid. They are fearing this blockchain system when they try to integrate this into a voting system. If we have fair voting system on a blockchain, they are gone. So yeah.
right, except you can't have a fair voting system on a blockchain, but that's a topic for another day. Um,
Okay.
let's so let me get back to the other topic of bombing schools, bombing hospitals, killing children. So my view is as follows. War is ugly. Innocent people get killed. In an average in a any war, in an average war, if there is such thing as an average war, but in war, when the war ends, more innocent people end up getting killed than military. That's been the general statistic. Like more civilians got killed in World War II than military personnel. None of those civilians were Americans because nobody ever bombed the U.S. But civilians in the UK, in Germany, and other countries, right? The whole concentration camps. More civilians get killed in war than military personnel in general. Now, having said that, there are directives from the leaders of the war. Now, obviously, the president, the war council, the generals, the captains, the lieutenants. Okay? My view is as follows. There is no administrative goal or attempt by the Russian president, the Russian war council, the Russian generals, the Russian captains. Uh, uh, there is no initiative to kill civilians or children or doctors. This is where I have a huge problem with what Israel is doing in Gaza. With Israel's war on Palestine, I believe there is a top-down administrative order to kill doctors, to kill uh, innocent people in order to exterminate that population. I don't believe that is the case in Russia. Now, will there be rogue soldiers on the ground that, are going kind of crazy from the war, deciding on their own to kill innocent people? Absolutely. Are the women get raped in a war zone? Absolutely. If a soldier believes that he might die tomorrow, he doesn't give a fuck. Right? So obviously, on the ground, there will always be instances of atrocities towards non-military personnel. However, I don't believe that these orders are coming from the top or from any rank. Uh, and unlike the orders of the Zionist leaders at the top. Now, on the flip side, I know, and I also believe that there is no order of bombing a hospital in Kiev or in any other part, bombing a school. I do believe that the orders are to only bomb military targets. And
Yes, but
or
it's this shit happens because they are dumb. They just can't shoot properly. That's my point of view.
I mean, things misfire. I'll give you not only that. Yes, there are. Look, the soldier on the ground is not the greatest person in the planet, right? If he was, he'd be a professor somewhere, right? So Um, yes, I agree. There are accidental uh, things happen by accident where innocent people get hurt. There are things even happen on purpose, but it happens on the lowest decision-making area, not higher decision-making area. Uh, and also, more recently, in the last 6 months, there has been direct attempts to fire at critical infrastructure like the electricity grid. Now, it's mostly been the electricity grid. It has not, Russia has not fired on Ukrainian nuclear facilities. Russia has not fired on Ukrainian hospitals unless that hospital is a military-ish hospital. Either the hospital is mostly housing military, even wounded soldiers, or that hospital building or that school has been turned into a military facility. Or
Yeah, that
if or if that hospital may still be a functioning hospital, but they placed military equipment on the roof of that hospital using the doctors as a reason as to why they get to fire back at their enemy. So that's also a war crime. The country is not
or
supposed to do that.
or
Well, the
or
country
if
is not
or
supposed
if
to put the equipment on the roof of the hospital. That's a war crime by the country putting the equipment on there, not a war crime by the country shooting at that hospital if there are missiles on the roof.
or if they shoot it accidentally and then said, "Oh, it was an military object." That's also maybe. Ton, I think you should try to switch something with your mic again.
Fucking
It's
hell.
it if you can try to do what you did before, it will be better.
That's
Uh,
the mic since we started. And it was working fine in the beginning.
yeah, now it's okay. I think it's maybe it doesn't even depends. I mean, sometimes maybe like 20 seconds, it's a little issue. Maybe you will the new driver will help you when you reinstall. But anyway, you're correct. But what do you miss that? In general, Russian people didn't want this war, so that's why also maybe they do not want to shoot even because I can understand in the Second World War they were defending themselves because of Hitler. He took half of Europe, and of course my grandfathers they they need to to just it was a self-defense. But now I understand, I completely understand if Russian people do not want to go to military to machine and to kill themselves. So it's completely different. And of course, I understand the reasons, like the historical reasons. It was one land, and I think if I were Ukrainian politicals, I think maybe I will be smarter and not to escalate this conflict. But we have what we have. Things are going uh, their way. I mean, Soviet Union collapsed. Now we see separate regions: Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan. I mean Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, may also maybe Tatarstan, the next one, because now Tatarstan is a part of Russia. I mean, it's not bad that empires are, they are like how to say распадаются, separating. Countries are separating for smaller ones, so this is not bad. And I think people after the Maidan in Kiev, the normal, usual people, they didn't care about the army, about the rockets, about the war. They wanted to leave, and I know a lot of good people. I think you too from Kiev you have been to 4 o'clock shows. A lot of cool people, which they don't care about this, uh, political issues about this regime. So, and also I know a lot of people who wants to switch this regime in Russia because Putin is, it's like an old school. It's like an 20th century. It's pretty much same that Soviet Union. Putin's regime will do something between this kings and tsars regimes and totalitarian, I mean, and this Soviet Union also. Uh, maybe it was a good idea, but in reality we saw this system collapsed. So I think Russia will maybe it's how to say проклятие in English, you know? This word, проклятие. No?
Um,
Let me
like,
let me see. Let me
I'm not
see.
good with like if it's a word that you don't know how
A
to translate,
curse. Yeah, it's a
it would
curse.
be worse
It's
for me.
it's a curse of Russia. Russia every 100 years, Russia, you know what Russia is doing like one the same thing. It's we call it наступать на одни и те же грабли. Rake, the same rake. So yeah, it should collapse, and then I think we will have some fresh air. Because I know, I think in general it's normal that usual people should be pacific, and not, you know, and do not agree with war. So I know a lot of people who wants peace with Ukraine, and I don't know how we can solve this because after Putin collapse, you know, he's not there is no magic that he can live forever. I hope so. There will be no medicine, so he will die, and I think pretty much soon. And yeah, I don't know how many years we need to spend to again to you know, to do a friendship, to do a partnership with Ukraine and Europe. It's insane because in 21st century, when we need to collaborate with all the world, you know, globally, Putin did what? Putin did absolute escalate of our country. No, you can't use any services. I mean, not bank services, even. But this also you can't use like YouTube or Apple Music. There's all this stuff. You can't use your banking cards. You can't be, and you can't be safe in Russia. You know, now I'm in Argentina. People say that Argentina is it's dangerous or a lot of crime here. I think it's absolute not true because actually, what I'm seeing, Russia is much more dangerous now. In Russia, you can go to uh, you can be stolen by police for nothing, for really for nothing. They can just take you and put you to the jail or to the military machine. That's what I'm seeing. So yeah, a lot of opinions. Tom.
Right. Let me address a couple of things in the comment section. By the way, what I was saying was, as far as I know, Russia doesn't have a top-down order to like bomb or go after any Ukrainian civilian facilities other than more recently electricity grid. Uh, but the opposite is not true. Ukraine has been bombing Russian civilian areas for the last 8 years. Prior to recently, it's only been in Donetsk, but more recently, it's been in Belgorod and other areas. So there is a Ukrainian top-down objective to fire rockets at Russian civilians and children, but there is no such objective from the Russian higher end orders. That's a big difference. Granted, yes, there are atrocities on the ground happen. Yes, Russia is firing more missiles, so obviously there could be more misfires from the Russian side than from the Ukrainian side. But at the end of the day, my problem is top-down orders to directly fire a missile at, say, a Christmas festival inside the Russian border, and there is no such objective from the Russian side, even if a missile does happen to veer off course. So that's the one thing I wanted to say on that topic. Now, a couple of comments. Someone is saying, someone is equating this to Hamas and Israel. No, Hamas is not putting rockets on top of hospitals. Hamas doesn't have rockets. So anyone who thinks that Hamas is putting military inside their hospital and on top of the hospital, and then Ukrainians bomb it, no, that is actually not true at all. Hamas is mostly underground, not on top of buildings, and they have no missile infrastructure to put on top there. If Hamas had missiles, they would have fired missiles on October 7th into Israel and not, you know, a 1520 medieval raid by the Viking style. Okay. So whoever told you that Hamas is putting missiles on top of buildings and on top of hospitals, and that's why Israel is bombing those hospitals and leveling them to the ground, or walking through a hospital directly shooting a doctor operating on children you are uh, you are a product of propaganda, and you continue to listen to it. Now, one more on this in this topic. People are asking about Bucha. Now, there is the Russian view of Bucha. There is what I think of Bucha. There is the Ukrainian view of Bucha, and then there's probably the truth. The truth is most likely in the middle. Now,
Between.
yeah, the truth is likely in between. What is the Russian view of Bucha? The Russian view of Bucha was a town that Russia captured, and then when Russia knew they were not able to keep that town, maintain that town, Russia retreated from that town back to Russia, and that's it. Now, the Ukrainian view of Bucha, these are the two extremes. Okay, Russia saying they didn't kill any civilians. They captured the town. Most of the civilians left town. They allowed the civilians to escape and retreat. Russia took the town. The Ukrainian military was going to come in. Russia knew they couldn't keep the town of Bucha, so they retreated. Now, Ukrainians are saying that they showed up. Russia did retreat when they saw the Ukrainian military coming into the town of Bucha. But before Russia retreated, they killed 300 to 400 civilians. They executed them in a murder-style execution and left them all either the combination of mass graves and just laying there dead all over the streets. That is the Ukrainian view. Now, going back to the opposite extreme of that, when the Ukrainians showed up, the Ukrainian army that showed up is one of the most, pro-Nazi Ukrainian armies. It was basically the Azov battalion or a similar group that came into Bucha when the Russian military retreated, and they brought with them 200-300 dead bodies from other places and left those bodies all over the city, thus blaming the massacre on Russia. Okay, now, what are some of the actual evidence that goes into one direction or another? Is one of the biggest pro-Russia didn't murder all these people evidence is that right after Russia left, the mayor of that town, the Ukrainian mayor of that town, did an interview saying about how he's happy that Russians have retreated and he's happy that the Ukrainian army was arriving and that Russians have left. And the mayor is standing there talking about this and didn't mention anything about mass murder of civilians. That is pretty, again, it's not direct evidence that Russia didn't murder 300 civilians and threw them into a mass grave. But you would think that if that happened, the mayor would have mentioned how these evil Russians murdered all of these civilians when the gun wasn't to his head doing that interview. And then within 24 hours after that interview, that's when the news broke about all of these civilians that were supposedly murdered. Now, the truth, it lies somewhere in the middle. It's very, very possible that some of these soldiers were not ready for what they dealt with on the ground. It's very possible some of the Russian soldiers probably killed a fair number of civilians in Bucha. If I'm forced to tell you guys what I think would happen, I would say about 10 to 15% of the claims of how many civilians Russia murdered, they actually murdered, and the other 80 to 85%, maybe as far as 90% of all the civilians that is being claimed were murdered by Russians was either done by the Ukrainian Nazi army itself that showed up to take the town back, which is something they were doing in Mariupol, or the more likely one, they did bring a bunch of dead bodies to make it look like Russia killed them all. There's also some evidence that when Ukraine was taking this town back, they started firing very aggressively onto the town without caring which people they killed. Because if they kill the Russians that were in this town, taking this town, great. And if they kill any of their own countrymen, any of their own Ukrainians, that's also, I'm not going to say that's great. I'm going to say it's not a problem because any dead Ukrainians by this battalion can be blamed on the Russians anyway. And since Bucha is a town very, very close to Russia, the majority of the people living in that town were maybe not the majority, but a decent chunk of the people living in that town to begin with would be somewhat sympathetic to Russia and somewhat pro-Russia. These would be the people voting for Yanukovych in the Russian elections. So here's the map. I need to look up on a Google map exactly where Bucha is. I believe Bucha is in the north. I'm pretty sure it's in the north. And that is a more Russian-leaning town than, say, the center of Ukraine. And therefore, when these, you know, Nazi-ish battalions of Ukrainians come in into a Western or a Northern Ukrainian city, they know the majority of the people there speak Russian, barely speak Ukrainian. They don't care about those people that much. So if they, take out some of their own Ukrainians, even though they're Ukrainians, they don't see them as Ukrainians. That's why there was a war in this area to begin with. So I would say anyone that's saying that Russia did massive atrocities in Bucha is has not really researched both sides. At the end of the day, we don't really know what happened there. And assuming that Russia did all the atrocities is incorrect. Greenie, you want to contradict me on this one, or what's your
Yeah,
opinion on it?
actually, I'm wondering why there are a lot of cameras. I mean, from the space, why they can't take look back and see if there actually somebody bring the bodies or not. Because for me, it sounds weird. I mean, from my point of view, I would not believe Russian statistics because of the war censorship and other other things. So, you know about ЧВК Wagner town. This is like a private army which were it was it was when nobody wanted actually to go to war with Ukraine. They took these private armies from the jails. Actually, there was prisoners, killers, and rapists. So I think maybe yeah. They even if they want if they didn't ask them, like don't force them to kill the civilians. I can believe that those people who were who were in jail after the murder or something, they can do such things like Anis Bucha. And also, I'm much more scared about what they will do when they come back to the Russia, because some of them who didn't die in the front line, they are coming back and they are doing insane things. Now we are seeing like people with guns walking on the streets, basically like in a, like in a zombie movie. And they can shoot, they can rob, they can do bad things again because they are, помилованы, как сказать, they are like they are free. They are not in jail anymore. How to say if you are free from jail? How to say that, Tom?
All right, because if they're pardoned, right? So
Yeah,
they took prisoners, they put them in the military, and yeah, Bucha is in the north. Like
yeah.
I didn't think it was right outside of Kiev. I think it's more up here somewhere. But we can go to a Google map and take a look. Bucha Google Maps.
Yeah. So I think this kind of people can do such things like and in Bucha, they can do,
Okay, so it's on the
this
outside. Okay,
robbing
so it
and
is
raping stuff.
right outside of Kiev. Okay, I thought it was a little closer to Russia. Right, it's a small town over here. Again, yes, it is possible that atrocities were committed, but this is very different than Hitler's top-down generals ordering, concentration camps and gas chambers, right? If some low-level battalion decides to commit a war crime, they should be punished for that war crime. But once again, it is very debatable where those bodies come from. There is no video evidence of Russians executing and killing Ukrainians. right? There is no evidence of that. The only evidence is bodies on the ground. And it's completely debatable, A, who killed those people, and B, were those people even killed in Bucha, right? There were lots of bodies from all over the area. There is speculation that when the Ukrainian army drove in, they brought 200 bodies with them. They threw those bodies all over the ground and blamed it on Russia, right? And I'm not saying that the Ukrainian army killed those people in cold blood to blame it on Russia. It's possible these people were dead from the surrounding areas of other, uh, uh, I guess, conflicts in the military, right? Like, I'm not saying that they were executed by the Ukrainians, right? There's lots of dead bodies to collect from nearby regions. So we don't know what happened there. There is
We
no
do not
direct
know.
proof. Someone is saying I should read the UN report. The UN is not uh, independent here. The UN is very pro-Ukraine. The people that write these reports are very pro-Ukraine because the EU is very pro-Ukraine. It is very hard to find any, I guess,
Evidence.
people or media. It's hard to find an organization that is going to be neutral on this topic. And guess what? If there was an organization that was neutral on the topic, or if they did publish something neutral, it's possible you would never get to see it because the media is controlled by the West. This is why it's hard. They don't actually care what the UN High Commission had to say because
Yeah.
it's totally controlled by the United States and the European Commission. So the UN Commission is not a neutral source of evidence here.
But anyway, Ton, look at this beautiful photo. I guess it's made before the invasion. What do you
Yeah, so
think?
I'm pretty sure it's made before the invasion. I actually didn't realize Bucha was that close to Kiev. I heard all
Yeah.
about it. I just didn't look at a Google map to see. So yeah, so if Russia had that kind of a force, why didn't they just continue killing everybody and take Kiev, right? So, and by the way, being this close to Kiev, it's really not hard to go to the morgue and collect 100 bodies from, Kiev, the biggest town in Ukraine. So the possibility that within 24 hours, 200 dead bodies were driven into Bucha to represent the fact that Russians killed them in cold blood is very, very high. I actually then, now that I see how close Bucha is to Kiev, I am increasing the probability that that is the truth significantly. If Bucha was, say, up here next to the Russian border, it would have been a lot more difficult to randomly find 200 to 300 dead bodies. But it's incredibly easy to find 200 to 300 dead bodies within a 30-minute drive from the biggest city in a country of 30 million people.
Oh, I don't believe so. It's my opinion. For me, the main reason that the main thing in this escalation is that Russia started this escalation. Actually, Russia was the aggressor. I mean, you said that Ukrainians also were shooting Russian boarding. How to say пограничные зоны? Boarding.
Border areas.
Borders, yeah, they were shooting, but they actually didn't enter, they didn't invade. I mean, for me, it will be absolutely okay and different kind of situation if, for example, Ukrainians came to Voronezh or to Belgorod or to Rostov-na-Donu and starting to shooting there. For me, no problem. Russia will be defending itself. So, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I need to decline my call. Russia will be the victim and will be defending itself. But now, I see the opposite. I mean, if Putin wanted to start that war, or if he think that this war will be like неизбежная, как сказать, не избежать этой войны. Но, как сказать, эта война была неизбежная? How to
Uh,
say?
Unavoidable.
unavoidable. Yeah, of course, this war were unavoidable, but I think Russia should wait until the Ukrainians invasion. But there was no Ukrainian invasion, so that's. I'm just trying to explain my point of view that I'm not pro-Ukrainian. I'm not pro-Russian, but yeah, I'm just against any kind of invasion. But the Crimea was different. I'm sorry for Ukrainians, but I didn't see a war there. That was absolutely peaceful agreement. So it's completely different things. Crimea and this war with Donbass and the rest territories. And I don't think that in 21st century we really need to fight to kill people for some small territories. I mean, look at the map. The Russia is the biggest country in the world. I do not think we need really these territories. So yeah, that's why I'm.
I agree. It does,
Yeah.
and Russia doesn't need these territories either. The thing is, these territories should have never been Ukraine to begin with. They should have always been Russia, and they're mostly Russians live there. Less so today, and by today I
Yes.
mean today. I mean less Russian people live here, say 5 years ago than 30 years ago. But in 1991, again, I go back to
Yes.
this right now. In
But
1991,
okay.
when the country of Ukraine began, or everything you see here with a blue tint should have never been Ukraine. It should have been Russia. And if these countries were Russia, this would have potentially could have been avoided. However, Russia would still never allow any part of Ukraine to be in NATO. It's just that Russia wouldn't need these regions anymore. There are reasons why Russia needs these regions, not because Russia doesn't have enough land. This land is this land is a lot more strategically important from a geology and geography perspective than Siberia of Russia. Yes, Siberia has minerals, but it, uh, this area in the south touches the Black Sea, which is very, very advantageous for military purposes. And since America continues to try and destroy Russia, Russia needs this land for military defense. The land in the north is very close to Moscow, and every second of a fast flying missile matters. So the land in the north matters to Russia, not because they need the land, is in order to reduce the possibility of a missile from the land of Ukraine striking the heart of Moscow. So it's not that Russia needs this land to acquire more land. Like if the two biggest cities of Moscow were on the opposite side of the Ural Mountains, Russia would have no need for this. But because the main two cities of Russia are super close to this area and a ballistic missile will be a lot harder to stop, they will acquire this land in order to drive the Ukrainian military further away from Russia's main population centers. This is, to me, this is common sense. And one of the reasons why, if Ukraine does not sign a peace deal, they will lose these territories even if Russia has to, like physically put each Ukrainian into a car and drive them to the west somehow, they will take this land to push the Ukrainian military away from Moscow.
I don't know, Tom. I think Russia can't handle even its own territories. I mean, 80% of Russians, I mean, except Moscow, St. Petersburg, and maybe, I don't know, one or two big cities, they are living, under the poor, uh, how to say, the line, under the line, under the,
But
you can
Green,
imagine yeah.
the poverty line, yeah. But those are two independent things, right? It's more important for Russia to protect the people of Moscow than to protect the other 100 million people in their country, right? Moscow is their capital. St. Petersburg is their second capital. There is what, maybe 20 million people living in Moscow, right? Those 20 million people are a lot more important to Russia than the other 100 million people on the other side. There's two reasons why they're important, more important, maybe three reasons. One, it is major economic activity. That is where people want to live, and that represents Russian strength. If Russia cannot protect Moscow, then China and other countries, India, China, the whole continent of Africa, they're not going to have any respect for Russia. Middle East will not have any respect for Russia if Russia cannot protect Moscow. And at the moment, Russia's biggest fear to keep Moscow safe is to drive the Ukrainians as far away from Moscow as possible. And this right here is the closest point to Moscow. So a missile right here, since America is not technologically capable of creating a hypersonic missile, and this goes to show you that the Russian military is significantly more advanced than the American military. If this is the closest point to Moscow, and just by moving the closest point to Moscow into Kiev, it literally allows Russia significantly more time to shoot down any missiles that could reach Moscow. And right now, there are no missiles that reach Moscow. This is actually a bigger distance than people think. Ukraine may next year possess a missile that could reach Moscow if they put it on this tip. It could take another 3 to 4 years for Ukraine to possess a missile that could reach Moscow from Kiev. This is almost, this is like 1/3 the distance to Moscow. It matters. People may not think it matters, but like I said, considering the West is incompetent of building hypersonic missiles, this distance significantly matters to Moscow.
I agree. This you're talking facts, but I don't know, Tom. Can you imagine, for example, a war with for Alaska between Russia and US? I think in 21st century it's not, the how we should agree on something. So yeah, for me it's something like
Here's,
this. I mean,
but here-
that was a mistake in of USSR that they gave Ukraine that they gave Crimea to Ukraine and then that the Soviet Union collapsed. But that's how it is. It was 30 years ago, and
well,
now I do not.
100
Sorry.
years earlier, it was a huge mistake by Russia to sell Alaska to the United States. Uh,
Ah, yes,
but
sure.
but here's the thing, right? Alaska is mostly dominated by Americans. Uh, Now, if Alaska was never sold to the United States, but Alaska at the moment was dominated by Americans and Canadians, and Russians decided to do to Alaska what Ukrainians decided to do to Lugansk and Donetsk. I can see America coming in and fighting Russia for Alaska, taking Alaska to be America, because
Yeah.
America and Canada are geographically connected to Alaska. Russia is not. And if Alaska happened to be dominated by Canadians and Russians, and a Russian and Putin decided to start shelling and killing Americans in Alaska, even though Alaska is Russian territory, I can see America coming in and defending Alaska, uh, fighting Russia, and annexing Alaska to be America. I can see that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Right.
that's basically what happened. Now, in my article, I basically gave percentages. Um, I gave it a 60% of the reason for the conflict is NATO entering Ukraine. And then uh, for my second reason, oh, now we're at 1%, reason three. Reason two, I gave this 30% for the conflict is Ukrainians starting a civil war here by killing and attacking the Russian speaking and the Russian leaning Ukrainians in eastern Ukraine, which is Luhansk and Donetsk, combined, known as the Donbass region. And these two reasons together make up 90% of the reason for the conflict. I give NATO 60%, the civil war that started in Donbass and Russia coming in to defend its people, 30%. And now we're down to just 10%. And out of the final 10%, Russia wanted to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. That's a legit reason. I give that 5%. And now we're down to the final 5%. Crimea being cut off from fresh water. And that's the main reason why Russia took Zaporozhye and Kherson. They needed to build a land bridge into Crimea. Crimea is not connected to mainland Russia. You have to put in goods and services by ship or by train or by boat. And it took them years to build a bridge. But
But they
now
did actually. They built
they
a
did, yeah,
pretty nice bridge.
this bridge
Yeah.
that the West keeps trying to destroy. But now they can put a road. They have a road directly into Crimea from Russia. They have railroads, they have driving roads, and they can now bring fresh water to all the people in Crimea, something that Ukraine stopped. Because when Kherson and Zaporozhye were Ukrainian for the last 8 years, up until last year, they stopped all fresh water from the river. There's a river going through here. And they stopped the fresh water. They put a dam, and they prevented any fresh water from to the people of Crimea. And now, again, I take it down to the most common analogy. You can turn off the water to your neighbor. Let's say your neighbor is depending on fresh water in his apartment that goes through your apartment and your pipes. And you decide you don't like your neighbor, so you put a valve in the pipe that goes through your apartment, through the wall in your apartment. You put a pipe and you turn off the water that's going to that neighbor. And now you say, I don't give a shit about your opinion on the water. The water flows through my apartment, and therefore I have the right to turn off this water so you don't get it. This is what literally a Ukrainian said to me, that it was up to the Ukraine to decide whether Crimea will get fresh water, and it's their option to allow this water to flow in or not. The same thing you can say to your neighbor. Now, the neighbor has the ability to call the cops and to resolve the situation. But what if there are no cops? The neighbor has no one to call, and the neighbor just says, I have to resolve this myself. So your neighbor comes to your apartment, beats the shit out of you, and turns the pipe on. Okay? And you have nobody to call for help. Now, if you know your neighbor can come into your apartment, beat the shit out of you, turn the water back on, and you have no recourse, you don't have any cops to call, was it a smart idea to turn off the water? Right? If your neighbor has guns and you don't, right? Why are you turning off the water to that neighbor? Okay, this is literally what happened here. Okay, Russia was not happy that Ukraine turned the water off, and the first thing they did was, when they captured this area, is they turned the water back on. That is my reason number 3. Sorry, that's reason number 4 for 2%, and that only leaves us with 3% to go. And now we can talk about the biolabs. Recently, we discovered 12 CIA labs, and there's also the whole thing about oil and gas. I'm not going to get into the whole Leviathan gas field. go ahead and do your own research on that. There's many other reasons as to why this conflict was going to be inevitable. All right. I think we can leave it here. I We have 10 minutes. We can look at the price of Bitcoin. Oh, wow, look at
Yeah.
this. The S&P 500 is on an MRI warning candle. So next week, there'll be a weekly top in the S&P 500. Bitcoin is rallying right now fairly nicely. Let's go to the short-term hourly chart. We can make it the hourly chart. We just hit a new swing high in current hour. I like this. We will have an hourly MRI top soon if we continue to rise here. And let's see. I still think we're going to get rejected by 65,000 resistance, maybe 66,000 resistance. But for now, I remain short-term bullish. All right. Any questions that you see?
Not
Um,
not a lot of questions, a lot of opinions, maybe. Russian Tsar has no choice to sell Alaska. He could not keep it anyway. It was not a mistake. Yeah, that makes sense also.
that is a factual statement. The Russian Tsar at the time did not have the ability to keep Alaska, so it was either sell it or watch it get populated by Canadians and Americans, in which case he might have lost it anyway. But again, uh, uh, it depends on the leadership of the country. Uh, it was just bad timing. Had oil had a use case at the time. They could have discovered oil and they could have held on to it. Uh, they could have. I mean, there were things they could have still tried, but yes, they sold it. They got something for it. And the crazy thing is, it was very controversial on whether America should buy Alaska from Russia. In fact, there were some shenanigans and in America, in Congress, in order to purchase Alaska. It was not a clean deal. There were definitely under the table dealings because the population and the majority of Congress did not want it. There were the Alaska purchase from the U.S. side definitely was not all rosy either. Am I still on a carnivore diet? Pretty much. I'm on a carnivore plus fruit diet. All right. Yeah, I didn't even mention Boris Johnson. That's right. Yeah, America sent, a trained monkey uh to Ukraine to talk Zelensky out of it. All right, guys. All right. I think we're gonna call it a day. Big A, going back to the Bucha thing. Where did they get 200 fresh bodies of non-decomposed people? We never saw 200 fresh bodies. We saw individual bodies and we saw big uh, piles of bodies, but we did not see 200 fresh bodies. So they didn't need 200 fresh bodies. There is no evidence of 200 fresh bodies. Maybe 30, 40. All right. All right, we're gonna call it a day. Hopefully my mic starts working better, but I think these are the best settings. So,
Yes, but you should figure it out because there was two or three times there was some glitches. Not a long time, but yeah.
no idea what else to figure out, but we'll try. All right,
Maybe you can
guys.
reinstall your driver. Thanks, Tone. Appreciate being here. And guys, take care and peace to everyone who doesn't want to be shooted. Thank you.
All right. I didn't show well, Crypto Commons, guys. Google Crypto Commons. You'll find his Russian speaking channel and his English speaking channel as well. I think we threw the link into the video description, not the video description, sorry, into the comment chat. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I didn't even comment on Julian Assange. I'm obviously happy he's out of prison. I don't know the details of the deal that was made, but if he's not going to prison anymore, that is great. I'm happy. I hope he's in recoverable physical and mental shape, but my optimism on that is on the low side. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you all soon.